ninth grade, Dad lost his cancer battle. Suffice it to say that at the age of 15, without the authoritarian father figure of my dad, and a heavy dose of anger and attitude, I rejected anything to do with religion. I said that I was an atheist, but I don't think I ever really believed that there wasn't some type of higher power. I was certain he wasn't playing a positive role in my life. He certainly wasn't there protecting me when I rolled a car I shouldn't have been driving a week after Dad's passing. He wasn't watching when I experimented with practically every substance known to man. Picked a fight with a chainsaw, developed a reputation in town for the kid who would certainly kill himself and others by driving too fast. Then I turned 19. My mom and my brother moved to Florida, and I believe to this day that she moved because she didn't want to be around when I died. Despite my self-destructive nature, I developed a fairly successful career in sales of heavy equipment and construction services. I flirted with religion from time to time, usually motivated by satisfying someone in a relationship. Oh, you're Catholic? I'll go to Mass with you. As time passed, my attitudes towards religion and God softened. I started reading the little pocket Gideon Bible issued to my dad in World War II. And having purchased a motorcycle, I kept it in the tank bag where it still resides today. At that time, I felt a bit of insurance in case there was something to this religious stuff. In 1998, prompted by a dear friend and searching for something in my life, I agreed to accompany him to an event called the Benedictine Experience. It takes place at Holy Cross Monastery in West Park, New York, built on a bluff overlooking the Hudson River 140 years ago. It's an Anglican Benedictine community of men. Their mission, as they quoted, is, as a community of prayer and worship, our service to the world includes the ministry of hospitality. The Benedictines believe that Christ is in all of us, and so they greet everyone as if they are greeting Christ. The Benedictine experience was an immersive week of living the life of a monk. I was going to do the monk thing. There is something that seeps into the walls of a place where people have prayed for 140 years. I felt a similar feeling in Cape May Point, which was a religious enclave for many, many decades. And I feel it in this room, particularly when I have some building and grounds tasks, and the lights are off, and I come in and do what I have to do, and then sit down for a minute. You can feel it in the fibers of the building. The monks at Holy Cross adhere to a monastic rhythm, which is defined by the 5 daily stations. These are times in the chapel where Mass is held and the Gregorian choir recites the chants of the Episcopal Church. The stations are Matins at 7 a.m., Holy Eucharist at 9, Diurnam at noon, Vespers at 5 p.m., and my favorite, Compline at 7:30 p.m. This monastic rhythm is punctuated by the great silence, which takes place from Compline in the evening until 8:30 the following morning. The silence is to allow a person to hear with their heart and not with their ears. After a couple of days, what started as an awkward silence becomes profoundly enjoyable. Someone needing sugar for their coffee asks with a glance, and the thanks received Sometime late in the night, I was awoken by strange and unusual noises, deep humming and loud, heavy bangs. In that state where you're semi-conscious, you're not fully awake, but somewhat aware, I was oddly terrified by the noises and unable to recognize where I was. For what seemed like an eternity, but likely a split second, I wrestled with this unusual fear as I struggled to identify the sounds in my setting. Suddenly, I sensed a presence on the chair next to me. A hand reached out and lightly touched my arm, and a voice said, "Fear not, my son, all is well." A calmness and peace came over me, and after a few minutes of basking in it, I forced myself further awake to see who was at my bedside. I admit I was very disappointed that there wasn't a bearded, robed, sandal-wearing figure next to me. Certainly, I had experienced someone or something. As the noise that started this experience came through the window again, I got up and peering out, saw lights going straight out from my window going by. It took a few seconds to realize it was one of the huge tugboats and barge drifts that navigate the Hudson. The tug's bridge and mast lights even through my window. The week at Holy Cross came to an end. Months and years passed, and that night pushed my journey towards a relationship with God and Jesus. I've attended church, sometimes more regularly than others. And then last year, certainly due to my construction and not biblical knowledge, I was asked to serve on session. Imagine my surprise when my first session meeting was the beginning of the trials we've experienced over the last year. Initially, I was ready to resign. I signed up just to take care of the manse. Forget the septic and the electric and everything else. But suddenly I was cast into the turmoil that we've gone through in the last year. I was ready to resign. But again, that figure on the chair said I was put in this place for a reason. Fear not, my son. Along with my fellow session members, we worked through the last year. I've always marveled at how much more biblically knowledgeable they are. My lack of Bible knowledge often kept me from speaking up, and I recognized that I was neglecting one of my most important duties, which is evangelism. And then by some weird cosmic intervention, I raised my hand to give this message. Weird cosmic intervention? I think not. Preparing for this message, I was forced to reach out and discuss my inability to understand certain parts of my Christian religion, my biblical ignorance, with people in this church and others. A funny thing happened on the way to this sermon. I became more comfortable sharing and talking about what I didn't understand. And as I clarified these misunderstandings, I started to feel a veil lifted off me I've carried all my life since childhood. God didn't abandon me all those years ago. He was there when Dad released his grip on my sister's arm, and when they kicked it around in a puff of dust, it jumped up without a scratch. He was there during Dad's battle with cancer, prolonging it, so I could be taught the lessons that would help me survive and thrive without him. I haven't figured out what he helped me with during my sister's death. Maybe just getting through it. But obviously he was there every step of the way with a woman who, in spite of insurmountable tragedy, kept our family together and kept it going through it all. Mom obviously had divine intervention every step of the way. So in closing, his message is not about poor me. It's about the presence of God every step of the way and how we need to recognize it, no matter the challenge. It's about how jumping in deep anything